Hello, hello. How are you? Welcome back to Life Trials by AAC with yours truly, Miss Elizabeth Ann. How are you guys? I hope everybody's doing splendid on this beautiful Sunday afternoon. It's about 12:41 p.m. here on the East Coast of Florida. Out here in Fort Lauderdale, I am very excited about this episode because this is another daily assessment of the news of today, which I have decided to call it the daily assessment of the news. It's kind of flowing, changing. Started this new series that I take the daily news that is within the headlines of the political arena, and I nitpick kind of the best articles and just pretty much the blockbuster type news of the given day. So I wanted to continue from my previous episode on the Cuomo Coverup, as it is the predominant headline news of the day for the last few days. For the last week, and I believe it's imperative to now address and assess the sexual harassment claims that are being leveled against this scumbag. So, as we all well know, he is obviously under criminal investigation for the nursing home death cover-up situation, which is pretty bad. However, now he's being accused by 5 different women of sexual harassment. So I think that it's really taken a turn for the worst. That, like, this guy is just trash. But I first wanted to start off this episode with why sexual harassment is so bad, generally speaking, right? So I first wanted to discuss the issue of how sexual harassment will be the detriment of any private or public business, whether it's a governmental public agency or it's a small private business. It doesn't matter. It even doesn't even matter with respects to when we discuss this specific issue within the public sector, or whether it's at the federal, state, or local level of our government. Sexual harassment is wrong, especially when it facilitates a toxic workplace environment and continues on with this strict type of power dynamic amongst those with superior power and that type of authority over subordinates. It really does blow my mind how sexual harassment is just everywhere. It's literally fucking everywhere. And it's in every sector of our society. And us as women must do everything that we can in our power to fight back against such facilitation of environments, and at the same time we must protect good decent men, because we need good decent men in our lives, whether it's on a more, you're looking at it more on a more, I guess, sexual orientation basis, where it doesn't matter if you're transgender, gay, lesbian, straight. With respects to sexual harassment, men are more prone to being accused of such behavior. And I think that it's critical that we assure that we allow due process to play its role in these situations. But however, that's not the circumstances every time. So, however, this type of behavior from a public official after such accusations about the cover-up of the nursing home deaths, along now with the sexual harassment claims, refuses to resign or step down. And it is those type of arrogant, power-grabbing people who will proclaim to be supporters of women, which it's interesting how it seems to be and fall flat on its face, where, it depends on the political party as to the standard that is being implemented when such accusations arise. And I really just feel it's this specific type of people where they project to be in for women. They do everything for women. They are about women, are the same people and the same exact individuals that will exploit as many women as they possibly can. As we all know, sexual harassment is systemic in this country, and it's really due to the imbalances in power within all sectors of our society, especially in government. And men hold way more positions of power within our economy, whether it's on the private or public aspect of the economy. And I just think that is why a lot of these issues fail to go away, really. A lot of people just don't even understand how bad sexual harassment is and how it damages the lives, the health, the prospects, the financial independence, and the opportunities of its victims and their morale in life. And it doesn't have to be physical. It could be just a sense of sexual threats, sexual extortion, and there never has to be any type of assault to take place. But that type of behavior is what facilitates a toxic environment, whether it's at the workplace or it's in a personal relationship. But with respects to the issue here that I am discussing, this applies to the workplace environment. So why I have felt that this whole sexual harassment claims that are being leveled against the governor are just as bad as the cover up of the nursing home deaths, right? So as of today, we find ourselves reading overnight the headlines where now there has been two fucking new sexual harassment allegations now being leveled against this guy. So we're at a total of 5 people that are accusing the governor of sexual harassment. And interestingly, all the women that are accusing him of such behavior have worked under the scope of his political power. And it's this type of boss that will utilize and maximize on such power of authority over his subordinates to get whatever it is that he needs to get. The ends justify the means, I guess, you know? However, even though he isn't being accused of sexual assault in any capacity, I have felt, and other people, commentators, people who, people in the media, stuff like that, have established that this could be considered political correctness gone wrong and just completely out of control because of the highly divisive political environment that we find ourselves in today. I do understand that argument that a lot of these claims are not sexual assault, but to sit here and say that that's political correctness is just preposterous on its face. I do understand that argument. I just don't feel that it applies here to this specific individual because of the other, underlying issues that are brewing in his administration, like the cover-up of the nursing home deaths, that he altered the numbers by 50%, and that's pretty bad. So my belief is that this whole situation is being used as an opportunity to deflect from the real issue at hand, which I just mentioned, the nursing home deaths. So where the governor, he's also tried to impede the Attorney General of New York's investigation, the criminal investigation being ensued against him. He's tried to impede that investigation, which he failed miserably, and has also attempted to silence other New York legislators that we all know. He's threatened to destroy their political careers, X, Y, and Z. And I just can't believe that this guy has not taken a step back and realized how fucking outrageous his behavior has become, and just take a step back and realize the mess that he has caused, and to stop blaming everybody else for his bad behavior. And it's interesting because this same individual that just a few years ago, with respects to the Kavanaugh accusations, was the same individual telling us that we should believe the women without due process and that this didn't apply to the case at hand, right? So that leads me into my next segment with respects to how there are double standards when it comes to sexual harassment. And it's interesting because I ask the question, why is there such a double standard with respects to how sexual harassment is covered through the media? And it's a sad situation where it all depends, like the coverage depends on what political party what political party the accused affiliates with. And I believe this specific facade is just incoherent on its face, right? That we have allowed for due process to be pushed down in the name of women, right? And that's wrong. It's here in this very situation now happening to a Democrat where they now want you to practice what they don't preach and want due process. Isn't that something? These same people, these same commentators, people in the news, people within political parties, political actors, a lot of big mouth people now are projecting their 2 cents with respects to how they believe that now due process is of importance, right? So, you know me, I like to add in some of the articles that I read over the last few days with respects to this issue. And one that I found super interesting, right? Listen to this one. This is from the Washington Post, as we all know. Okay, esto está super liberal, but whatever. So it's an opinion article from the Washington Post, and the title is "Due Process is Now Back in Vogue for Democrats, Apparently." And she goes on to discuss how the Supreme Court justices like Kavanaugh and Thomas must find it extremely rich that Democrats and some like-minded commentators are now all of a sudden enthralled to, the principle of due process. They're now just in full-blown want of such a principle to be implemented in such a situation, right? Because now that a Democrat is the subject of sexual harassment allegations, now they believe that it's in everybody's best interest that we allow for the due process to take its course, right? It's really interesting. And I found it to be one of the most interesting reads I think I've read in some time, especially from the Washington Post. Obviously, as we all know, it's heavily liberal news outlet. And for them to establish such an article, I'm thirsty. For them to establish an article about those within the Democratic Party, those that they're always covering for, detailed such hypocrisy on its face. Like how just a few months back, 2 years ago, when Kavanaugh was being accused of gang raping from supposedly 30 years ago, the whole due process was not available and afforded to him, but it must be afforded to this dude. It's pretty interesting. And I think that this is when we realize as Americans that the governor is obviously in some serious trouble. And I think that the news outlet have come to that realization as well, that it further details how insane this whole debacle is, where the same guy that is accused of a serious cover-up that is being criminally investigated is also being accused of 5 women of creepy predatorial behavior. He wants to assure his alliances that they must project this new principle that they want to honor now, that the whole Me Too movement now stands for me, love, due process. I found that really interesting that the commentator, the person who wrote this specific article, quoted that, where I'll re-say that again, where she puts that I'm obviously paraphrasing, where the whole Me Too movement needs to become me love due process too. So that's interesting, isn't it? Right? The hypocrisy is just crazy. It's crazy. And it's interesting because it's not really something that we really thought was going to, just become such a disaster. But it's interesting how this same individual that was projecting his own hypocrisy 2 years ago, when Kavanaugh was being accused of such, horrendous behavior, he was the same person saying, we need to not honor due process and we must believe the women at any cost, no matter what. So why I think he has to go, and in my professional opinion, I believe this man, out of the sake of the 15,000 plus families that lost loved ones in the nursing home cover-up scandal, he should resign and step down. Just because of that aspect, let's not even address the whole sexual harassment thing, right? He should step down because of that. But no, he just continues to project this hypocrisy that honestly is causing a lot of damage to the Democratic Party. And it's interesting because it is those same individuals who attempt to project such mob rule-like tactics when the tables are turned on them are trying to now look for mercy. Isn't that something, huh? It's really interesting. And I just really believe that the guy should just remove himself from the political arena forever because his political aspirations are over. And I'm just not sure why there hasn't been anybody to provide to him the reality of that situation. So, However, I found this to be an extremely interesting individual, and because of the amount of news coverage that he has received in the last just fucking 10 days, I thought it was imperative on my behalf to assess that specific situation. So I hope and really pray that everybody enjoyed this episode and have enjoyed my assessments of the daily news series. I hope you guys like it. Obviously, there's still a lot of work to do, but I am having a lot of fun doing it. And I just want to thank you again for tuning in to my podcast, Live Trials by EAC. And just a few announcements before we go. I will be releasing within the next few hours some more personal life trial experiences that I have been dealing with the last few months of my life. And I just really can't wait to share that with you guys because it's just been really long few months for me. So this should be extremely interesting episode. So stay tuned for that. So thank you again. Bye.